So good afternoon. I want to thank people for coming, and I especially want to thank our hosts for taking us on a tour of this beautiful spot here in Plymouth, which, as I recall, is located in a transit-oriented development part of Plymouth where I remember at least 3 projects that were related to this. A residential project over there, a big walking path that was also part of this, and then the train station, all of which have been part of a work that, is it the Carthage project? Is that one of the Cordage. The Cordage project that we've been working with people in Plymouth on for a number of years. We're here today to announce another round of grants to small businesses across the Commonwealth. But before I speak to that, I do want to give a quick update on vaccines. Yesterday, appointments started to become available for people 75 years or older to begin on February 1st. All residents in this age group can visit mass.gov COVID vaccine and use that statewide map to locate an appointment for themselves. And the scheduling is done through online portals there. The high volume of people working to secure appointments all at once, it was a very frustrating day. We know that for everybody, especially for those who were looking to book an appointment and couldn't find one. We know how important it is for people to get appointments booked. That can't happen fast enough. And in addition to the website's online booking system, we're working to make more resources available for seniors, and we'll have more to say about this next week. We're also in touch with many public and private senior organizations to facilitate additional support and information sharing. Right now, there's obviously a high demand for a limited number of appointments, but more importantly, people should know that appointments are being added to many sites every day, and at the mass vaccination sites once a week, and the once a week is Thursday. We will have 7 of those sites open over the course of the next 10 days or so. Right now there are appointments at Gillette, Fenway Park, the Eastfield Mall in Springfield, and the Doubletree in Danvers, and we encourage folks to look for appointments at those sites. Yesterday, for example, Springfield and Danvers posted 10,000 appointments, and they were booked within hours. Today, Springfield and Danvers posted an additional 15,000 appointments, and those are being booked. And Gillette Stadium and Fenway Park posted 20,000 new appointments this morning, and according to the folks at the command center, these appointments are also fully booked. The mass vaccination sites post their appointments, as I said, once a week, and on the weekly which is based on the weekly allocation of vaccine that we get from the federal government. That way, when people do book an appointment for a time and slot in the next 7 days after that, they can be certain that the vaccine will be available for them when they get there. The mass vaccination sites will post a large number of new appointments every Thursday. However, it's important to note that based on the number of vaccines that we receive, which this week went from 80,000 to 100,000 for next week in new first doses, the number that we receive from the federal government, the number of appointments that we'll be able to make will depend to some extent on the vaccine we get from the feds, and we anticipate and hope that that number will continue to grow in the weeks ahead. Other sites like the CVS Health sites point new, those 8 sites can do about 1,150 appointments a day, which represents about 8,000 a week. As I said, they will be adding additional sites in Massachusetts over the course of the next 10 days. Their appointments yesterday were fully booked, but you should check with a site if it's near you each day, because they will be adding appointments every day. In total, today alone, over 35,000 new appointments will go live at different sites. And if you're looking to visit other locations like pharmacies and community health centers, you should check back frequently because they do open their appointment books every day. The one difference is they're smaller, so they will have fewer appointments available than the mass vac sites will have. We obviously know everybody is anxious to put this behind them, And believe me, we know that people want to get their shots as soon as possible, but we are asking people to have a little patience here, because even as we add capacity, there are currently somewhere around 1 million people, plus or minus, in Massachusetts who are eligible to get vaccinated. And at 100,000 new doses a week, you can do the math and figure out that that might mean it will take a little while for you to have the opportunity to get your first vaccination, and then book, obviously, at that time, your second vaccination as well. If you don't see an opening at a site that's interesting to you, or a place you would like to go, you should just go back and go back to that site each day. Eventually, an opportunity will become available and you can take it. And obviously, the mass vac sites, as we said, those sites around Massachusetts will be opening up based on the weekly supply that we get from the feds. Every Thursday, they will post tens of thousands of available openings for the following week based on the vaccine that we get from the federal government. As we continue to see an increase in the number of shots that we get from the feds, obviously capacity at the vaccine sites will keep growing, and that will make it possible for more and more people to get a vaccine as part of this weekly process. Again, we'll be announcing more resources soon to help seniors book their appointments, and that will make, I believe, things a lot easier, and we'll make other adjustments to make the process smoother for everybody. Now, the reason we're here today is because Raquel and Bob were kind enough to host us. Thank you very much. It's 1620. It's quite a building. You can play basketball in here. I've been to Cordage Park, as I said, a few times, including during the summer of 2018 for the groundbreaking ceremony we had on the Harbor Walk Apartments. A little slip of the tongue there. It's good to be back. We're especially pleased to be here at the 1620 Wine Bar, which received a grant through the Mass Growth Capital Corporation's COVID-19 Small Business Grant Program to support their operations. Obviously, due to COVID, many businesses, especially those that operate in what we think of as the indoor entertainment space, have had a terribly difficult time keeping the lights on, and this is to help them work their way through this second surge. And that's why we put this program together with our colleagues in the legislature, and why we made the decision to fund it at such a significant level. It is, in fact, the largest small business grant program of its kind in the country, and it does give preference to what we think of as indoor entertainment businesses, and those that are operated in many cases by business owners and owners who couldn't get access to the federal Paycheck Protection Program or other federal or state or local aid. We're grateful to the team at Mass Growth Capital. This has been an enormous undertaking for them, for processing applications and working as quick as they can to get money out the door and into the hands of these small business owners as quickly as possible. Today we're announcing another $45 million in grants, which will be going out to another 1,100 small businesses, including 5 others here in Plymouth. About a third of these grantees have received no other aid of any kind. And this is the 4th round of grants through this program since December 21st. To date, we've awarded almost $280 million to more than 5,800 small businesses. This is a $720 million program, so we obviously have a long way to go and a lot of opportunity to continue to support small businesses as they work their way through this second surge. We'll be announcing these grants pretty much every week as we work our way through the applications that Mass Growth Capital got. And we know that while the last year has been particularly difficult for many of us, it's been very difficult on places like this: restaurants, venues, banquet halls, so-called indoor entertainment venues. For them in particular, they have made terrible sacrifices over the course of this year to deal with COVID, and we very much appreciate the opportunity we have to support them as we all try and work through this. Let me just close by saying to Bob and Raquel, thanks again for hosting us. This is really a beautiful place, and I look forward to having an opportunity to come back when things are a little more like they used to be with respect to the operation of institutions and venues like this. And with that, I will turn it over to the Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you, Governor. Like you, it's great to be here in Plymouth at Cordage Park. I was last here for an official event in 2017 when the state invested through its MassWorks program in the infrastructure, including a road and utilities, to open up this large tract for new development. You obviously knew when coming in here that this was an industrial park. This building apparently was a place where rope for maritime purposes was made, and you can clearly see it took people with some creativity, some new ideas, thinking about this in a way that many people would not, to turn it into a wedding and wine venue. As I understand it, Bob and Raquel had careers before doing this and turned something that they were very excited about into a small business. And it gives us an opportunity today to celebrate the ingenuity and the entrepreneurship that is very much a backbone of the Massachusetts economy. And to come here to a place that not too long ago was vibrant with activity and joyful moments for couples and families to come together, and to see it today as we round the corner through this pandemic in a less active state, says to all of us that the program that we are using to support small business is needed now more than ever to help small businesses like this bridge to that time where they can become fully operational. We want to thank Bob and Raquel for working hard through these challenging times. You certainly are an inspiration to us and to many others that are trying to get through it. And today's round funding includes a daycare in the Berkshires and a coffee shop in Provincetown and restaurants in Worcester and New Bedford and a pet groomer not too far from here. And when you think about these places, before the pandemic hit, they were places that we just took for granted would be there. We would go for our services, we'd hit our favorite restaurant, we would shop locally, and we want to make sure that all those favorite places that we enjoy, the familiar faces that we see behind counters, are still there when we see the COVID-19 exit the Commonwealth. And that's why this grant program is so critically important. There are 1,100 businesses receiving grants today. Each of them are in communities across our Commonwealth. Obviously, they include things like bars and restaurants, 219 of them, 153 in beauty and personal care, more than 100 retailers, and another 100 in education, just to name a few. When I think about this, I also think about this past year in Plymouth being a year of celebration for their 400th. Obviously, it did not take place the way they envisioned, and we look forward to celebrating at some point with Ken Tavares, who I know is here, the chair of the board, who worked really hard for that. And we have our local legislators, Lenatra and Moran, as well. But certainly the winery named after the year 1620 is a pretty special place for all of you in Plymouth, and may we work together to see the days when this is a place literally lit up with exciting moments and really good times ahead. With that, I'd like to now turn it over to Secretary Kennealy, and I want to thank Raquel and Bob for having us here today.
Thank you, Governor, Lieutenant Governor. I want to echo their thanks to Raquel and Bob for allowing us to visit here today. It's really great to be here. Now, in addition to the direct financial support for small businesses that we announced today, we also have been deploying funding for small business technical assistance. This type of help has always been an important part of our strategy, and it has proven to be essential during the pandemic. Not only do small businesses employ nearly half of the Massachusetts workforce and make up the vast majority of all businesses in the state, but they are frequently family-owned across generations, and they greatly strengthen the communities in which they operate. And we are so fortunate here in Massachusetts to have a comprehensive network of public and private small business assistance providers. These are organizations who understand how important it is that people from all walks of life have the opportunity to create, to grow, and in this moment, to protect their own small companies. Through our friends at Mass Growth Capital Corporation and the Massachusetts Association of CDCs, the COVID-19 Small Business Stabilization Network was launched last year with 50 organizations that have been available to support small businesses and their communities. This network has been helping small businesses to access funds through federal programs like the Paycheck Protection Program, as well as access the Mass Growth Capital grant programs, providing one-on-one support for business owners seeking help with the applications, which are also made available in several language translations. The Small Business Technical Assistance Grant Program, also administered by Mass Growth Capital Corporation, builds the operational capacity and skills of organizations that provide the education and access to capital for small businesses, including many owned by women, minorities, and veterans. Since 2015, this program has distributed nearly $10.8 million in grants. These funds have directly benefited over 12,500 small businesses, including 2,700 startups across Massachusetts. And I'm thrilled to say that this year's funding is the most that the program has ever received. Starting last month, we began dispersing nearly $5 million to 63 organizations that provide help or training programs to our small businesses in underserved communities. These organizations, selected through a competitive process, will continue to serve businesses in every corner of the Commonwealth with a diverse set of expertise across a variety of business sectors. This type of help and the organizations have been essential to getting applications in for the Mass Growth Capital Small Business Grant Programs from those who need our support the most. We're so grateful for their hard work over these last 10 months, work which has resulted in grants to over 2,500 minority-owned small businesses so far, about 43% of all the state grants to date. So thank you very much. I think with that, we're going to bring up Raquel for a few comments. All right.
Thank you. This is so exciting. I feel like I'm meeting Beyonce. I'd like to tell you a really quick story. 51 years ago, a loving Cape Verdean couple flew to Fargo, North Dakota to adopt a little Mexican girl. They had no idea, with their love, passion for education, and their dedication to hard work, that they would turn her into a serial entrepreneur. 21 years ago, that little Mexican girl married the man of her dreams, and together, hand in hand, they decided to take the business community by storm. In 2015, the 1620 Winery and Wine Bar was created. And with over 100 events and countless happy brides, I think it's safe to say that it was a huge success. And then 2020 happened. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit small businesses, none of us knew how we were going to survive. Needless to say, the 1620 Winery and Wine Bar was no exception. We decided to put on our big girl pants and turn our event venue into a cocktail and tapas lounge. Now, we knew that being open only 2 days a week on Fridays and Saturdays was not enough to pay the bills. Rent is high anyway. Today, I am so pleased to announce, from Governor Baker to Lieutenant Governor, all of his staff, that we received one of those grants. And with their help, I can promise you the 1620 Winery and Wine Bar will be here for decades to come. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to coming back. Questions? Yeah.
And when will we learn more about that?
Beginning of the week.
Senator Aaron Webster filed legislation today, emergency legislation. He says the current system has created mass confusion and anxiety. He wants to create a one-stop online portal and a phone hotline. Do you agree with that? Has it created mass confusion and anxiety?
Well, we knew from the start of this, and we said this, that we expected that the first few days would be difficult because there are far more people who are eligible to get a vaccine than there are vaccines available. And I do believe that as we continue to expand both our capacity and anticipate an increase in weekly first dose supply from Washington, that will make it possible for more people to both make appointments like the 45,000 who did in the past 2 days. But you're still talking about a big universe of eligible people, and it's going to take a while for that collection to work their way through a system where, you know, we went from getting 80,000 first doses a week to getting 100,000 first doses a week. That's better, but you're still talking about 100,000 first doses in a circumstance, in a situation where you have almost 10 times that many people who are eligible. So that's why I keep saying this requires a certain amount of patience and a willingness to come back and check. And the max vaccination sites are going to post their following week appointment book every Thursday, and it's going to have tens of thousands of openings all over the Commonwealth on it. And as we add what I would call sort of the smaller sites, the CVS's and the Walgreens and the Price Choppers and some of the provider-based clinics that are going to be opening, the community health centers as well, those post more frequently, but they have fewer appointment slots to fill to begin with. But the big hope we have here is that as this goes forward, we get additional vaccine from the feds, we add additional capacity, more people get their first shot and get an appointment for their second shot. But it's going to take a little time.
Governor, what was any surprise about you or your staff with yesterday's rollout? Some of the complaints that you office. Was there anything that just caught you off guard?
I think the biggest, the two big issues we heard yesterday were, number one, we need some sort of a call center that people who can't use the online system can access. We agree with that, and that'll be happening next week. I think the second thing is the just ongoing concern about when I'm going to get my appointment, and we knew that by opening up the process to the 75 plus folks who aren't in long-term care or assisted living. Those folks are getting vaccinated through the long-term care and assisted living program, but the folks who live in the community, that would require time because there are 500,000 of them and there are only 100,000 new doses a week that are coming to the Commonwealth.
Some of the towns in which they're setting up their own sites. How do you figure out how much each town gets? Like Marshville wants to do that drive-through and bring these and some other kind of law.
I think part of the goal on our front is to remember, if we had enough vaccine to give everybody the vaccine they were looking for, that would be a fairly easy distribution process. What I would say is that we have a growing amount of capacity. We expect and anticipate we'll be able to do 305,000 doses by the 15th of February a week. That will be some combination of first doses and second doses. So part of the answer to your question is, if somebody's gotten a first dose at a particular place and has a scheduled appointment to have their second dose at that place, that second dose would obviously be made available for them on that day. Now, there are going to be places, particularly the smaller ones, where all of the slots they may have 2 or 3 weeks from now, or even next week, will be filled with people who got their first dose 2 or 3 weeks ago. So part of the reason for continuing to add capacity is to recognize and understand that we need to add capacity so that we can not only add for first doses, but also be able to make sure we add capacity for people who have to come back for a second dose as well.
Governor, are there any plans to make the website easier for older folks to navigate? Is that what about seniors yesterday going through it with them? And what gear we get connected to one different spots? Hard for me to figure out. Some of these folks just say, I don't know how to use this. Is that going to be part of the rollout next year?
Well, I think part of the reason for creating a phone-based alternative for people is so folks can do that. I also think the two things I would just want to make clear to people is the mass vaccination sites once a week, Thursday, their appointments are going to go up for the following week based on what we get told on Thursday is going to be the federal distribution for first shots the following week. That's a really important issue.
Is that the latest information you have from the Fed, the 100,000 for next week, and then next Thursday you'll learn about the fall?
Exactly. And that is an increase. We were getting around 80,000 first shots. So that's consistent with what the president talked about as trying to do. If you think about where they were before, it was around 800,000 shots a day, right? So if you go from 800,000 shots to 1 million shots a day, which would be the equivalent of going from where we are in Massachusetts, 80,000 to 100,000 a week for us, the other number is the day number, that would get you to the 100 million shots in 100 days that the president's talked about. But the thing I want everybody to remember on this, because this gets to the heart of the question about supply. Let's suppose the feds deliver 100 million shots in 100 days, which sounds like a really big number, okay? It's a 2-dose, right? So that means in 100 days, which January 20th would be the end of February, March, April, be the end of April, right? That would mean 50 million people would be double-dosed and vaccinated, right? There are 350 million people in the U.S., probably 300 million people that folks think of as the community that needs to be vaccinated. So when we talk about, I mean, we're talking about really large numbers here, not just in Massachusetts, but across the country. And we can't expect that everybody's going to get vaccinated right away, tomorrow, the day after, if the current stretch goal that's been established by the feds, and I hope that J&J vaccine gets approved, which is a 1-dose, and then they can start production. I mean, I hope that the numbers associated with the production side here grow at some reasonably quick clip. But the point I'm trying to make here is the president talked about 100 million doses in 100 days. And people thought, wow, that's a big number in a fairly short period of time. But if you're talking about 100 million doses of Moderna and Pfizer over 100 days, that's 50 million people across the United States. He was inaugurated on January 20, so you got the 10 days of January, then 90 after that, which would basically be February, March, and April. So it's May 1st. May 1st, that'd be 50 million people.
Are you still anticipating you're going to get 3 weeks of visibility like you promised?
We haven't heard that we will yet. We expect that when they get a little more, and I said this when you asked this question before, you know, they've only been there for 8 days now. I think their goal is to get us to the point where we will have visibility 3 weeks in advance, and that will make a big difference with respect to not only our planning, but also appointment scheduling as well.
Is there any some opportunity for booking more than one appointment, for instance? I'm thinking here, and I'm trying to set it up, this one opens up, this one opens up. Can I book both just to see? I mean, like, is that a concern? We're hearing from people concerned about that.
The people have actually booked 2 appointments?
No, that they have concerns about that. I wonder, is there anything in place that says, hey, you can't do that? One person can't sign up for 2 appointments.
My understanding is that it depends upon, if you enter all the same information in two places, I don't believe you can book twice. That will kick. But, yeah, so that would be my answer. I don't think you can.
And what about seniors who perhaps a couple in their 80s, who are, they're married, they want to go together?
Yeah.
They can't do that, or can they go together?
Can they schedule appointments at the same time?
Yeah, it just seems.
They can, yeah, if the appointments are available, yeah.
Last question.
But you can't, you can't, remember, we only know how many doses we have, right? So you can't, if you can't schedule one person to go and then bring two, if that's what you mean, because the scarcity of the availability of doses means every dose is going to be accounted for. One of the reasons we're doing this 1 week process and trying to stick to a 1 week calendar on this is we don't want to end up in the place that a number of other states have ended up in, where people have made appointments and then been told either when they showed up or the day of that there was no vaccine available for them when they got there. We have work to do on this stuff, and the phone piece is something I would have liked to have had ready, and we will soon. And I know it will make a big difference for people. Yeah. Correct.
Is there anything to also streamline the online appointment process? We've been hearing from some people that they wait in line for one, they can't get an appointment, and they have to do the same for another provider. It seems like there's so many different providers, everyone has a different process for signing up, and that's kind of a real big source of frustration for people as well.
Again, I think as the number of sites grow and the number of seats grows and hopefully the number of vaccines grow, people might not have to spend as much time doing some of that shopping. We'll certainly see if we can come up with a way to make it simpler for people to do it, particularly if there's like a radius in which people want to play. But the biggest challenge for this is more vaccine, more slots, which will make it possible for more people to book.
Quick question. I've had people ask, when do I sign up for the second dose? Is it when you're at the first, getting the first dose?
It varies a little, but most of these places, remember, when you get your dose, they're going to make you wait, right? They're going to make you wait 15 minutes or so just to see if you have any kind of a reaction to that. And during that period, most of these sites are taking advantage of that and booking your second dose at that point in time. Not everybody is going to be able to say, I can book my second dose right now, but that is by far the simplest and the quickest and the surest way to book a second dose.
How does staff provide, is that something, how does staff call, or, and are you concerned about, making people educated in this field?
So we've been staffing call centers since this pandemic began, and we've been staffing them in a pretty big hurry in many cases on some fairly complicated topics. We're pretty good at it. We're late, but we're pretty good at it. I don't worry about whether or not the call center will be able to serve people appropriately. It will.
Can you tell us what kind of guidance you offer you provide to these different healthcare providers that are creating the vaccination software? Because it just seems like everyone's kind of doing something a little bit different. We're hearing from some people, they were even having been asked to upload photos of their insurance card. That was one of the also.
So I don't have I heard this last night, okay? The process on this is pretty straightforward, and you're not supposed to need to do that. So what I would say in answer to that is that we will get you a direct answer to that question, but I do not believe that is that process should be the same for everybody. And I don't understand. I literally got a call at home last night from a legislator at 8 o'clock who asked me this question, and I haven't gotten an answer to it yet, but we will.
And you need to clarify for people, are vaccines free for everyone?
Vaccines are free, although we would like to pay for them with your insurance, okay? In Massachusetts, 97% of the population is insured. We have the ability to make sure we pay for the people for whom it's not covered. But the goal here is to try to make this is an insurable event. We should encourage people who are insured to bring their card so that they can use that identification to make sure that we bill the appropriate carrier to get paid for that.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm actually kind of surprised that nobody asked me what I bought. I bought some really nice, I got some really nice red wine. He started, no, but I have no palate. That wouldn't have mattered. This is strictly for my wife. But the question I got asked was, he said was, well, so what kind of red wine would you like? And I said, one that goes well with pasta, all right? Because the answer to the more technical answer to that question is